Uh-oh, uncertain about the future? We have no idea what the hell's going on, and we love it. This week on the Yepcast. This is the Yepcast, where we're building a tribe of creators, movers, and shakers,
and inspiring young entrepreneurs to learn, think, and support one another.
What's up, everyone? My name is James Nuveen.
And my name is Madeline Martini, and you're listening to the Yepcast. Kicking it off within the news. Big news in tech this week. Apple hosted their annual keynote talk at the Steve Jobs Theater in Cupertino, California. They released 3 phones, the XS, the XR, and the XS Max. Each of these have a little bit different variation, but are essentially the same phone. You can pre-order them on September 14th.
What I think is interesting about this new development from Apple, Madeline, is that they're now releasing this cheaper, more inexpensive phone because they didn't last year. Last year, they only had this $1,000 iPhone 10, and that was it. That was the only option. But now, because of all this consumer feedback, and I don't really know. I don't really follow Apple too much. I know you do, but I don't. But they're now giving a lot of their customers options to buy this a lot more inexpensive phone, but the same quality, just probably a smaller size and probably some smaller storage options. So I think that's really cool because they're really democratizing their technology and allowing people of any kind of socioeconomic status to have the one of the most powerful phones on the planet. That's awesome.
I absolutely agree, James, and I think I've read a little bit about this as well, and I've heard that this is supposed to be really big in India and other parts of Asia. They're trying to compete with Samsung and some of the other big competitors in the Asian phone space. So definitely we'll be hearing a lot about Apple in September as their phones roll out, and people, of course, always camp out. So this won't be the last of them.
And on the same subject, Madeline, I also have some news about cellular networks. And that is that 5G is coming soon, baby. Get geared up and get ready because you're going to have the fastest internet in town. Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile, the 3 largest mobile networks in the United States, are rolling out 5G as soon as October 1st. That's just a few days away from now, and we should expect it in a couple cities by the end of 2018. And wow. Fast internet is coming to you wherever you live in the United States, hopefully even in rural places like North Dakota, where I'm from. That would be awesome to see.
It's definitely super exciting, and as we're both super interested in the future of technology, and we hope a lot of you guys are too in the tribe, this is awesome news to hear. Here's our take.
This week on the Yepcast, Madeline and I are discussing ambiguity. No, it's not just some buzzword you hear in your entrepreneurship classes in college. No, it's not just some blanket word that we use in entrepreneurship. It is a real thing. Madeline and I have lived it out, and we want to talk about it because it's something that we've encountered and we've had some troubles with. So, when we asked ourselves before we started recording this episode, what has stopped us from starting a new project or a new business? We said uncertainty. Uncertainty. I think that is the biggest roadblock and the biggest obstacle to me in starting something new, whether that be a relationship or whether that be a project or a business or an idea. Just the uncertainty of not knowing what is to happen in the future kind of scares me. But it's what you do with that really matters. And we're going to talk about that later in the episode.
This is a really great and relevant topic to tackle today, and we think this will relate to a lot of you. So to kind of start us out, how would you define ambiguity, James?
Oh boy. I think I would define it as kind of what I was saying earlier, the state of not knowing, the state of being uncertain about what's going to happen in the future. And to a lot of people, that's a really uncomfortable position to be in where they may not have control over what happens next. I imagine before you started working for a startup, this was a little bit more uncomfortable for you than it is now. Am I right in saying that?
Yes, you're absolutely correct in saying that. I would say, though, actually, I still am pretty uncomfortable with ambiguity. Not as far as like getting a task and taking that and running it, that kind of stuff I'm okay with, but knowing what the results are going to be, I'm a data driven person. So I like having validation that ideas are going to work and all of that. And you can't have that in entrepreneurship. You just have to run and you don't know what the next 6 months or year is going to look like. And I'm a future person. So
Of
that is
course.
what
Yeah.
definitely scares me.
Yeah, to me, uncertainty is really exciting because I think it means something new is on the horizon. And to me, that is like an actual adrenaline inducing activity. I don't know why. Maybe that's the way I'm built. Maybe that's my innate entrepreneurialism in my blood. I don't know. But I've always been enticed by the fact that I don't know what's coming. And Madeline just asked me earlier today. Madeline, what did you ask me earlier today?
I was curious about your plans post grad and how this all plays into it because that's definitely a time of the unknown. So how do you feel
And I
about
responded
that?
to Madeline and said, I don't care. Okay, that's a really bad way to phrase that, but it's exciting. I don't mind that I don't know what I'm doing yet because I know that I'll figure it out. And I know that good things are ahead either way, no matter what I do, because I am in control of what I'm doing. I won't let myself be homeless. I won't let myself drown. I won't let myself die before I can get a job. I have control over my own life enough to make decisions for myself and control where my life is going most of the time. And I think that's where most people feel comfortable. And that's the exciting part, though. That's really, really exciting because people really don't recognize the fact that they have 100% control over their own life. Today I could quit school, move to San Francisco, find a job for a tech company, and make a lot more than I would be by actually using up money at college. I could do that right now. I could. And that would destroy all the ambiguity. Well, actually, that would create more ambiguity because I wouldn't know where my next paycheck is coming from in San Francisco or where I'm going to be living, obviously. But we're always creating these new senses of ambiguity in our lives. You just really don't label them as such. You know what I mean?
Ambiguity, I was going to just say that, is unavoidable. Any path you choose, whether it's entrepreneurship or even like kind of your typical 9 to 5 job, there is ambiguity and stuff. Obviously, some paths have more, like moving to San Francisco is a lot bigger. Like you don't know what's going to happen. If you're from Ohio, it's totally different. There's a lot of new changes. But I think there's people deal with ambiguity in really different ways. So like as James was saying, he embraces it and kind of thrives on that. For me, I am a worrywart. I will just say it. And I know that's not an entrepreneurial trait. And I don't fit sometimes the 6 entrepreneurial kind of characteristics. But for me, I don't love that. I'm a futuristic person. I am always thinking into the future. And with that kind of mindset, you're going to be worried. There's a lot of different paths in the future. And when you're considering all those, it's scary. It just is. The mindset you have is so positive about this. And I wish I could be more like this, but I also think there is something to be said for having kind of like a more skeptical, I would say, approach to things. Whatever side of the coin you fall on, I think it's not a good or bad thing. There's gives and takes with both of it. So what are some of the ways that your kind of positive outlook and excitement has hurt you?
Oh. Well, I know that I'm an extremely positive person, a very optimistic person. It hurts me all the time, though, in really bad ways. Like I call myself an eternal optimist. My mom is very similar to me in that facet. And when I'm approaching new projects, I think that nothing can go wrong. And as a skeptic, I wouldn't call you a skeptic. I would call you more of like a realist. Um, you can kind of see those problems in the future and predict them and know that they're coming and kind of predict for problems that no one can see, no one can foresee. But I don't do that. I am just full steam ahead and don't predict problems that may come up. And that hurts me all the time. I can't think of a moment where this especially came true. Um, Actually, yes, I can. After working with Madeline for about 10 months at a startup located in Cincinnati, I went to go work for someone else. I wanted to try something new. I still have 1 year left of college, and I didn't know what that was going to amount to. I didn't know if I was going to like it. I had no idea. Um, and it turned out after those 3 months in the summer where I interned at this company, I didn't like it as much as I thought I would. But I took that as a stepping stone into learning that I would ultimately love to work for startups for the rest of my life. So I pulled a positive out of that ambiguous moment. But when I first stepped in those doors, I was kind of lambasted by a bunch of obstacles and frustrations because it was so ambiguous and I did not predict all these problems that would happen. Being a realist in my situation would have helped a lot more, I think. So I think that's one moment where I think being an eternal optimist kind of hurt me. But really, I think just learning about that experience and learning that should predict more about the future and foresee some of these problems is really helpful.
Something so interesting you said in that is that your mom is similar to you in this way, that she also is kind of this eternal optimist. And I think that's interesting because I think my mom is very similar to me
Really?
in that she analyzes risk. So I kind of, that brings me to the point that I think this is kind of an innate thing. Like we're taught this in the
Mm,
environment we were raised in. What do you think about that? Because thinking how I was raised, yeah, my mom is like analyzes risk, and that's what I do. And when I enter any project, I think, how can this fail? I get excited by when it succeeds. Of course, I'm not a pessimist, but I would say in a lot of ways I am a realist, and I like to know that things will work when hopping into them.
I would echo what you just said 100%. Um, when you first said this, I thought of some experiences that my mom and I have shared, not together, but individually. She went to camp as a young lad, and I did also. And in those moments where you're climbing a mountain or you're paddling a stream and something chaotic happens, there's a thunderstorm and you have to evacuate the water, or um, there's a bear at night and you have to pull your food up into a tree to not let the bear eat your food, your only food that you have in the wilderness. That there is so much ambiguity involved in those kind of scenarios, and I think my mom, having loved those kind of situations and loved her time at camp, really brought that out in me as well. And I thank her to God for all those moments that she gave me, because I wouldn't be the same person I am today without her pushing me to camp and making me be uncomfortable and feel that ambiguity early on in my life so that I wouldn't be so uncomfortable with it later in life. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean. On the total opposite side of that, I'm trying to think of activities now that I did as a kid that kind of shaped this. But from my view, it is a positive thing to be able to analyze risks, but I don't think you should always live in either of these. So how James is always like curious and excited, like that's amazing, but I think you do need someone who's more like me at the same time. So this is important when building your startup team, to make sure your co-founder kind of complements your skills. And James talked a lot about this in his blog posts. Go check it out on hellyep.com/blog. But so you can learn more about that there. But I think you definitely need both kind of mentalities for success. And one's not bad and one's not good.
So let me ask you a question, Madeline. When you left your university and finally entered your working life, did you notice a shift in the lack of ambiguity in school where you had a routine and you had a schedule and everything was predictable about your day to the startup where you're working now where you have no routine, you have no schedule, and there are fires all over the place that you have to set out every single day. Did you notice a difference, and how did you kind of overcome those? Well, you overcome ambiguity more than you embrace it, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah. So how did you do that in that shift from school to a startup?
Absolutely. So definitely school versus startup is completely different. Even if you interned while in school, that's such a
I would
different
even add
experience.
that just school versus life, school versus reality. They're so different,
Yeah.
and one's ambiguous and one is really really not that ambiguous because it's so predictable, and it's kind of obvious which one is
Yeah.
which.
Yeah, that's so true too. So in life, this is kind of exciting to me that I don't know what is next. So I guess in this area, it's exciting and scary all at once. And every day at work, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to encounter. I don't know where my company, or I don't know where our company will be a month from now, which is exciting and scary. But the cool part about it is you really get to build what you want your life to be like. And I love that aspect of it. Like in the nights, I can choose, do I want to go downtown and go to a meetup group, or do I want to go out with friends, or do I want to work on Yep or another side project or stay late at work? You get to totally have control of your schedule, which is so cool and also scary because if you don't do anything, that's on you. In school, it kind of forces you're going to class, you know your meetings. You in the evenings can choose, do you want to use your time to go out with friends or watch Netflix or do homework? But there's less options for you. And I think when you graduate and in life, there's a lot more that you have to start doing as far as like the whole adulting thing. So you have to stay on yourself. There's no one else around you anymore to kind of tell you that there's no parents, there's no teachers, you're on your own. So it's exciting and scary, and definitely I've had a time adjusting to that as well and using my time wisely and the best. I think it's important to still develop a routine, but then leave time for flexibility. On the point of schools, I think the way we were raised in the education system is really interesting in preparing us, or maybe not preparing us for that, to deal with ambiguity. It's something I kind of learned later in life. So I'm curious, as you are still in school, what's kind of been your university and all of your education's role in helping you with this ambiguity?
um so I actually have a lot of knowledge on this subject because I've watched some YouTube videos just like everyone else. um so the K through 12 system that we are living out today has been around since the Industrial Revolution, and that was late 19th century, so late 1800s, early 1900s, I believe. And the public school education system was literally created to churn out new factory workers. Once they graduated, they were ready to work on the floor. Now, that's not needed as much. So, in that realm of education, ambiguity was never really built into our curriculum. Creativity was never really built into our curriculum. It just wasn't there. And it's still not there. We're seeing in education systems today that teachers and classrooms are failing to teach kids about what the real world is like. And in university, it's gotten probably 20 times better. I have faced a lot more ambiguity. I have gotten a lot more real world experiences that have shown me actually what the business world is like, what the entrepreneurial world is like, what the startup world is like. And it's a lot of ambiguity. And I thank my university for that, because if they did not show me what ambiguity is and how to be comfortable with it, I would be nowhere. And I'm still nowhere. I haven't graduated or anything. But just learning from experience what the real world is like, I think is really, really, really valuable. So the more you learn, the more you read, the more you listen to podcasts, listen to the Epcast, I think enhances your level of understanding of ambiguity, and the easier you can either embrace it or overcome it in Madeline's case, and probably a lot of other people's cases. It's not just Madeline overcoming ambiguity. But in that way, you can look at ambiguity as being exciting rather than being so damn scary. It's not as scary as you think. A little level of uncertainty and unknowingness is good for you.
I think if you don't have ambiguity, it leads to being comfortable. And if you're comfortable, we've talked about this before, we see that you're failing. You have to challenge yourself and grow every day. So definitely it's something you have to overcome, but at the same time, it is an advantage point, I think. I think especially if you're an analyst or if you are an analytical thinker, it does help a lot to weigh your options for the future. So let's unpack this and leave you with a couple takeaways of how you can incorporate this into your life. And
Listen, we know how difficult ambiguity is to define. We've lived it. We don't think there is an exact way to overcome it or embrace it. We ultimately feel like it's just kind of something you're either born with or you learn through experience. And that's what we want to drill into your brains in this week's Yepcast. You must embrace the ambiguity and learn by experience to overcome those kind of uncomfortable feelings about it.
with that, we challenge you.
Game on.
Vow to never let ambiguity stop you from conquering your biggest fears in life and your greatest dreams. Ambiguity is always constant, whether you're traveling across the country for a new job or starting a small business in your hometown. It's going to happen, and it's not something you can conquer or truly overcome. It's always going to be there. Embrace it or use your analytical mindset as an advantage, but either way, never let it stop you. That's our challenge for this week and for life.
Thanks for listening, everyone. This has been episode 6 of the Yepcast. We will see you next week.
Peace.